I mean, I'm already feeling like getting emotional. And now it addresses something, it addresses fear. Like fear that you cannot, you cannot talk even directly about fear.
Whereas the film of Iskander Abdalla is about what it means to be a Palestinian living inside Israel, and what are not only the challenges but the oppression that these characters face in their everyday life. What does it mean to be a second-class citizen? What does it mean to be living in a country where you are absolutely hated and unwanted? Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, welcome to our first Rawi podcast ever. We are really excited. Thank you for being here with us to talk about the upcoming ALFILM Festival taking place from the 23rd till the 30th of April, so very soon. We are super excited, and I prepared some questions from our collective, so it's not just my own questions, but we gathered them together. As a start, I would like you to introduce yourselves a bit and tell us maybe how the festival started.
Sure. First of all, we are very excited to be on the first podcast of Rawi ever. It's a huge honor, so thank you so much for that. Such an amazing opportunity. I am Pascale Fakhry. I am the executive director of ALFILM. I hold a PhD in film studies and gender studies from Paris 3 University. I started working with ALFILM in 2013, and I have been in a directing position since 2020. Maybe I let Iskander introduce himself.
I'm Iskander Abdalla. I'm the artistic director of ALFILM. I live in Berlin since 2015, and also I started working in ALFILM in 2015.
Thank you.
ALFILM was founded in 2009 by Isam Haddad, Claudia Jabe, and Fadi Abdel-Noor. The festival is now preparing for its 16th edition. The reason behind creating this festival in the beginning was the utter lack of visibility for Arab cinema in Germany. At that time, it was even worse than now. And it was also the need to show an Arab perspective on the Arab world through film to counter the usual stereotypes and media narratives about the Arab world. So that was the idea behind the foundation of this festival. It has developed a lot through the years. For a very long time, it was only organized with people who were working as volunteers with no money because the festival was not funded. It started being funded in 2020, and now it has still a 3 years funding from the Berlin Senate that we always need to expand through other proposals and other funds. And since 2020, the festival has been really expanding. Our audience changed, not only also because of the change in the structural migration landscape in Germany. The Arab community became much bigger and more interested in culture because they were able finally to work here, whereas the community that was living here before were in a Duldungsstatus and couldn't work, so they were not really interested in culture. The festival has been expanding as well throughout the city, in the cinemas in which we are screening our films, as much as outreach towards the community and visibility. So I don't know how much you want me to dwell on that, or if we will talk about it at a later point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in the growing interest in the 16 years.
I mean, for a very long time, our audience was maybe to the majority white or Western, Germans or international people living in Berlin. I think for us, this community or this interest has always been steadily growing, but the huge difference for us when it came to audience was really the invasion of the community of the cinemas in which we are. And this made a real big difference. And also this is also what we wanted, because we are after all a community, or a festival who is very interested in community building and in having his role, I don't know if representation, somehow we take it very seriously. We want to give a space for the community to be in public in Germany with their thematics and their identities.
Yep. Great. Next question. I have my neat little moderation cards here, not to forget anything. How can the festival remain objective and unbiased, or it doesn't have to be?
I think a film festival should not be objective. Like any film festival should have a vision, a view of the world, and a certain understanding of how to build communities, what topics to address, and also how to be relevant to the themes and the narratives that need to be represented, that need visibility. So we are not objective, but this does not mean that all the films we have in the program comply with our personal taste or the personal taste of the program team. We have a program team of several people from diverse backgrounds in order to have a program that is also diverse in tastes, in styles, and in the process of curating the program, of selecting films, it's very important to kind of separate like the personal taste from this idea of having a diverse program that kind of speak to different audiences and larger communities. So we don't have to be objective. We have a certain vision, but at the same time we try to include different visions so that they can also be represented in our program, or they can have access to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why is it important to you not to only show films in the festival, but also have masterclasses and panel talks?
I mean, as Pascale said, like community building has a priority for us. So for us also, we are not screening films just to screen films, but we're using these screenings as events, collective events. So where audience can engage with their questions, with their comments. We are not only inviting filmmakers, but also increasingly inviting community leaders, activists, experts who can kind of highlight or read films from different perspectives than questions of aesthetics and filming processes and so on and so forth. So what makes a festival for us are the film talks, beside the screenings. And also like this kind of extended formats of discussions where we thematically have panels that are kind of related to the Spotlight program or to the themes we emphasize in the selection section. And then also increasingly we invited filmmakers and film professionals with a long career, and when we have these people in our festival, I think it's a good opportunity to reflect on their previous work, not just the work that we are featuring in the specific editions, as we have this year with Kamal Al-Jafari. Last year was Rana Eid. Rana Eid is an amazing sound designer who made globally a name now, and it was nice just to hear from her like about her career over the last decade and to have also insights about other films that are not necessarily screened in the festival.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the themes, what kind of themes did you tackle over the last years? Could you maybe specify a little bit, give some examples, maybe also a bit more of examples for guests that you invited, because it's actually interesting to hear also about the past years a little bit more.
You mean the spotlights that we had in
Right.
the past years? It has been very diverse. So maybe in the last 4 years, like in 20, we had I think it was the 13th edition of ALFILM, we had Lebanon as a spotlight. It was at a moment where Lebanon was going really deep into the economical crisis in which it fell. After that, we had a spotlight on cities in cinema, in Arab cinema. Last year, the spotlight was Palestine due to the war on Gaza. This year, the spotlight is more dealing with decoloniality. These topics, usually we don't decide them a lot in advance because it is very important for us to be addressing the topics that are relevant in the year in which we want to present them. So usually we decide on this topic around the fall. And we are also flexible and change this topic if we feel like it. Like for the Palestine spotlight, it was absolutely not planned that way. And we decided to move and do it because it seemed to us not possible not to tackle this subject in this time. Sorry, what was the next part of your question?
Like which other guests did you, do you remember from?
Oh, we had so many through the years. We had Pascale Fakhry 2 years ago. It was maybe the most prominent or one of the most prominent. We had Yusra, that's true. We had Yusra, I'm so sorry, I forgot about her. We had Yusra, we had Pascale Fakhry. This year we also have many that are prominent that are coming. Iskander Abdalla, Maha Haj. So there were so many, honestly. I think maybe each has his own personal favorite.
We treat all our guests as prominent.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
like prominency for us is not the, I mean, okay, Yusra is,
Yeah.
of course, yeah. But like we treat every guest as a prominent guest. Just one thing about the spotlight last year, it was not just about Palestine, it was about global solidarity with Palestine. And this was just, you know, this was like our message to Berlin, to our Berlin communities, and the reminder of, like, you know, the history of the left movement in Europe, even the liberal left, of dealing with this question. Just to wake people up that this question was formative even for cinema, even for the canon of cinema. And yeah.
Thank you. We were also wondering, it's actually Hannah's question, about your beautiful posters that you do every year and how much of a value when it comes to visual identity, and maybe speaking of the spotlight of each year, maybe there's some kind of subtle message through that. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, our visual artist is Pascale Abdalla, who is also one of the founders of the festival, and he led the festival for many years. I mean, I started working with ALFILM under his management with Claudia Juba. So we have kind of continuity in the visual identity, and now it like become part of how people perceive ALFILM because of his aesthetics and his vision. But interestingly, with the years, he's also kind of developing his style, and more recently also trying always to integrate the spotlight scene within the visual aesthetics. So like from the spotlight program on cities and urbanity,
Lebanon
we had
as well.
also Lebanon as well, and Palestine.
This we hope is a little bit science fiction-y because
or speculative.
Or speculative.
It's beautiful. Okay, thanks so much for those insights on the history or the background of the festival. I would like to continue with speaking of this year's program more in particular. And you will open up with Madi Fleifeld's To a Land Unknown. He's a Palestinian director, and why did you choose him as an opener, or his movie as an opener?
First of all, because we really like the movie very much. So this is maybe the first biggest reason. It also tackles a lot of thematics that are very relevant right now. Of course, the Palestinian narratives when it comes to constant migration and no homeland. But also it is a topic that is so relevant for so many people who are trying to reach Europe right now and who are stuck somewhere trying to leave the state, and how complex and difficult this situation is. And the film deals with these questions really well, be it from the storytelling, from the genres chosen to deal with this topic, be it from the script that is really amazing, written by Mehdi Fleifel and Faisal Boulifa, who is a director from Moroccan origins, whose film we also showed as an opening 2 years ago, The Damned Don't Cry. So the film had it all, actually, to be just the perfect opening film for us.
I also like about the film, I mean, it speaks in specific about the Palestinian refugees in stateless refugees in Greece, stuck in Greece, but also this particular experience intersect with a larger experience of Arab existence, like also with other trajectories of being refugees, and we see this in the film. And then there is also something that is really, I really loved about how the script develops and like the main plot. It's a film, I mean, it features these oppressed, miserable characters and locate them in the complexities of their life and history in a way that even when they do things that you can consider evil, but you see the difficulties of making moral judgments on people who suffer this kind of suffering. And I mean this film has also like this deeper message of saying also like of how should we develop compassion, like how to practice compassion towards people who has this kind of who live this kind of suffering. And this is what we hope as an opening for the festival, also to trigger compassion, maybe.
Empathy.
Comparing to A Land Unknown with Iskander Abdalla's Happy Holidays, or the perspective of the directors, because Fleifel is coming from the exile perspective, whilst Abdalla is more from within the fabrication of Israeli society. So he's like Christian Palestinian from Jaffa. His film Happy Holidays is from told from a women's perspective mainly, if I got it right.
Not only, actually.
Not only, but also. And like, how do these two films, as two of the highlights, I can maybe say, complement each other in a way?
I start and you continue.
Okay.
I guess. For me, actually, I think they are very different, and yet in their extreme differences, they give us really different entry points to Palestinian identities. The film of Mehdi Fleifel is about statelessness, is about continual looking for a place, for a home, migration eternally, whereas the film of Iskander Abdalla is about what it means to be a Palestinian living inside Israel, and what are not only the challenges, but the oppression that these characters face in their everyday life. What does it mean to be a second-class citizen? What does it mean to be living in a country where you are absolutely hated and unwanted? So in this sense, these two films are very different, but they show really a very wide perspective of what it means to be Palestinian nowadays.
Yeah, maybe the only thing I fully agree. The only thing I might add is that also in this film, I mean, it's a very well-made script. I'm not exaggerating to say this is one of the most interesting script, like written scripts in recent Arab film production.
You're talking about Happy Holidays.
About Happy Holidays, yes. But also what is interesting, I mean, a Palestinian filmmaker living in Israel is not just telling stories of Palestinian in Israel, but also reflecting on the Israeli society and telling stories that are, of course, they intersect with Arab presence or Palestinian presence in Israel, but also giving insights from his perspective on the Israeli society. And I think this is also important. Yeah.
Thank you. Iskander Abdalla will also be available for a Q&A. What would you ask him?
I think we should not answer this today. Come to the screening.
Exactly, I agree, because there are so many questions we want to ask him.
Okay, I tried.
And regarding the woman perspective, I think the film tells the story from very different perspectives, different perspective. But I think the most interesting character that kind of like she's the only person who finds like an exit of this kind of trap that is being portrayed in this film. All the characters are kind of trapped, including the Israeli character, in what I feel like it's also an ideological trap somehow. And she, towards the end of the film, in particular in the last scene of the film, she finds the way out. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's talk about the Spotlight program more in detail. So you already mentioned the focus this year is decoloniality. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on?
I think I leave that to Iskander. This is his program.
Yeah. Yes, I mean the program. I mean, I liked your other question, which is it was like with the quote, and then there was a quote.
Yeah. I have your quote here. Right?
Yeah.
Shall I read it? Can
I? Yeah.
Okay, great. So your quote goes like this: "Colonialism in the region is not a past we recall with the agony of loss, tempered by the pride of national restoration. Instead, it is a present masquerading as the past. A tapestry of cancelled futures that await to be reclaimed, so that they might be rendered livable." Thank you for this nice quote.
Yeah.
It actually is a good start into it.
Yeah, so the idea is, like, when we think about colonialism, like, the first thing that comes in mind is, like, exploitation of lands and people, and then resistance, and then the liberation, like the national liberation, especially in the region. Like, also this is the national or the narratives in the region that are also constitutive to nationalisms in the region. And then maybe like some critical thinkers or would say, yeah, and then there are like post-colonial residues that can be, that's in certain time will be resolved, and that's it. But we try to have a different perspective on that by saying that that the region is entangled with colonial structures, and that decolonization is not just about presenting this kind of perspective or this narrative, but also possible through imagination, through imagining different realities than the one created or imbued with colonial logics. And what was interesting in this program, I mean, it came out of the like many recent films, Arab films, that all try to use speculative fiction, magical realism, like futuristic utopias or dystopias as a way to deal with contemporary societies. And I see in this, like in imagining different realities, even in some films like Lit, for example, are not just imagining different present or futures, but even different pasts, like in the senses of what could happen if the history has been otherwise. In Lid, for example, what could happen if colonialism or if the British did not occupy Palestine, and if the Nakba didn't happen? How would be the future of the future that couldn't happen of a city like Lid? And in times of despair, in times where we are deprived of every possibility of a life in dignity in the region, but also in the diaspora, and we like all how refugees struggle, like how minorities in Europe or in Germany also lately struggle with dehumanization, with the increase of the far right. Maybe imagination is a possibility that could be empowering, and also that could be critical to the current conditions, including how colonial structures are sedimented also in these current conditions. And and that's basically the idea.
Thanks. You answered like my next two questions already as well.
So,
I mean, because you talked also about the commonalities of the films in the spotlight and how they deal with speculation or reflection, and more like a even revolutionary way, you could say.
yeah.
Like the question that you also raised was, what could our lives have been like otherwise? And you answered that right now. So skip. Let's go to Kamal Al-Jafari in giving the masterclass this year. His films are shown as well, a Fidai film and Chronicles of the Year of Fire.
It's not him, Chronicles of the Year of Fire.
Sorry, so a Fidai film.
A Fidai film.
Only, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So what kind of insights do you expect from him when it comes to the spotlight topic of decoloniality?
I mean, when it comes to subverting archive, to imagine what could have been or what might become or what was erased and how to bring it back to life through film, I think no one can do that better than him. This is his expertise, not only with a Fidai film, but with a lot of his films, be it Recollection, be it UNDR, a short film that we might screen in his masterclass. So in this sense, his whole cinematographic perspective is one of subverting archive in order to explore the what ifs or the what has been erased from hegemonic discourses. And in this sense, his masterclass fits exactly in the concept of the spotlight.
Kamal Jafari is someone who not only thinks about the plot, but also about the form.
Yeah.
So like about not just about what kind of story I want to tell, but how should I tell the story? And he's critical to how we inherit or how we learn narratives of telling stories. And this is also part of the critique, like a part of a decolonial critique is also to critique the form. And to try to subvert forms, like to use forms, but to kind of remove them maybe from their original contexts, and you try to use it in different contexts. And he does this with archival materials, of course, with archival footage, especially in a Fidai film. Is a film that is based on a stolen archive that was found. And then he is not just presenting this archive as it is, which would be interesting because it was a stolen archive and maybe it tells something about Palestinians, but also to like, he's kind of not just subverting, actually damaging the footage somehow. And this kind of engagement with the footage, like overwriting the footage, commenting on them, even damaging them in a way, is an artistic intervention that I think in the center of decolonial practices. Yeah.
Looking forward. Are there any other films that you would like to highlight or talk about before we continue to the organization of the festival and the challenges?
Maybe we each talk about his little favorite. I don't know.
I mean, this year we have 3 Egyptian films that are kind of daring in their, like one of them in the form, like very unconventional, perfumed with mint. Also, it's part of the spotlight because it has this aspect of magical realism, and it presents also kind of dystopia. You never really know, is it in the future or is this life after death? And it's at the same time it's very poetic, and I think it addresses something about Egypt that is really, I mean, I'm already feeling like getting emotional. And now it addresses something, it addresses fear. Like fear that you cannot, like, you know, you cannot talk even directly about fear. And it finds ways to navigate censorship, but at the same time to say something very, very genuine about experiencing fear. We have also Seeking Heaven for Mr. Rambo by Khalid Mansour. Perfumed with Mint is by Muhammad Hamdi. And it's also a very beautiful film that gives insight on contemporary Egypt from the perspective of the oppressed, the marginalized, including dogs. And this is actually an interesting theme in the whole program, also the relation between animals and humans, human and nature, envisioning the post-human maybe somehow, yeah. And the third Egyptian film that I'd like to highlight is Bassam Murtada's Abu Za'bal 89. It's a very personal story about Bassam's father, who has been arrested and tortured in Abu Za'bal prison in the late 80s. And this story is still haunting the family, the whole family. And Bassam is exploring this chapter, which also says something kind of continuity of oppression and yeah.
I would like to highlight the Lebanese films. How stereotypical, each his own nationality.
You can highlight it, but
we also have 3 Lebanese films. Mundov by Karim Qasim, We Are Inside by Farah Qasim, and A Front Gone Mad by Omar Mismar. All of them very differently deal with the aftermath of the Lebanese economical crisis, the lack of infrastructure, but also in A Front Gone Mad with the potential war that did happen at the end, but it was filmed before, waiting for the conflict to happen. Each of them is also structurally very interesting. Mundov is a unique film that mixes a lot fiction and reality. The characters are themselves, playing themselves, yet they are not. And it brings you a really very interesting insight into the life outside cities, like the life in the mountains, in the villages, and how the lack of infrastructure is really affecting the daily lives of people in these parts of Lebanon. We Are Inside is a very interesting father-daughter relationship linked to poetry, but it is also a beautiful insight into the city of Tripoli. The city of Tripoli we rarely see, even though in the upheavals in 2019, it was the heart of the upheaval. So it is really very interesting to have a film that is dealing with this city, which never doesn't happen usually. So my own personal favorite is A Front Gone Mad by Omar Mismar. It is, from the structure, such a simple film. You have one camera standing in the same place, filming a woman putting Botox needle into the faces of her clients. And you have them discussing everything from beauty to the war, to what might happen, to how they are preparing for this eventuality, to who wants to have Botox in what way. It's an amazing film. I felt like I traveled to Lebanon for an hour and a half, and I was really anchored in this society. So it is personally one of my personal highlights. So yeah, these are a little bit the films that I would like to highlight.
No, and maybe one more film we
Yeah.
have to highlight.
Sure.
The Syrian film, My Memory is Full of Ghosts by Anas Zawahri. It's about the city of Homs. And I mean, this is one of, we had many Syrian films over the last years, but most of them were made in Europe. And we're talking about the war and like Syrian refugees, or the fates of Syrian refugees struggling with the memory of the war, or with the grief on their relatives or their lost homes. But this film is shot in Homs, and it shows like really the effects of the war after more than a decade on the city, on its inhabitants, in a very beautiful narrative, very simple but honest, and very nicely written monologues of the different characters that are featured in the film. And I think it's very timely to show this film now, not just because in like the fall of the Assad regime, but also really it's time also to reflect after all these years on the damage that the war left, and to understand that it will take years and years to repair. And I'm not to repair this damage, I'm not talking about the destruction in the cities, but to repair the souls that suffered all this suffering over the years. It's a very beautiful film.
About the shorts program, could you maybe tell us a little bit of your personal favorites there?
We have 3 short programs this year called respectively On Grief, On Militarization, and On Lightness. And we also have 2 additional short films that will be screening with long ones, by Dido, by Muhammad al-Hadidi, who will be screening with Abu Za'ab al-89 by Bassam Murtada, and Locus Cordis, who will be screening with A Frown Gone Mad by Omar Mismar. It is a very diverse program that we have. My personal favorite is Apollyon by Amir Yusuf.
This one we showed in one of our screens.
You want another one? Okay. Okay, we have a Bahraini film called, oh my God, I still don't know all of the titles. What was it called? Okay, we have...
short film about kids? No.
No, a beautiful excuse for a deadly sin.
For a deadly sin.
Yeah, a beautiful
deadly
excuse
sin.
for a deadly sin. A very nice comedy about social expectations and freedom of doing whatever you want and not being able to. We have many Palestinian films, a short film about kids, An Orange from Jaffa. We have Upshot by Maha Haj, which is also a very strong film with Muhammad Bakri. We have... do you want to mention some of your favorite?
No, I mean...
No.
It's all right. Thank you. Cool. Okay, I think we could move on to the last block, so to speak, which would be a bit more about the organization and the challenges that you faced, or key challenges you were facing for this year's edition. What were some of the key challenges that you were facing for this year's edition?
One of the main key challenges that we are facing from now or starting couple of years before and for the future is to be able to remain independent, and free to express exactly what we want to express despite hegemonic discourses. And this makes our financial situation always a little bit problematic because we rely for the moment on German state money. So our aim is to continue being independent and continue to be able to expand. So these are the challenges that we have been facing this year and that we will be also facing in the coming years.
Perfect. I think one of the challenges for us was also because we had a very successful edition last year. And the bar of the expectation is extremely high. And and we wanted to meet this expectation and even to surprise our audience. We want to include larger audience, as Pascale said, but the resources are getting more and more limited. The spaces are narrower and narrower. The structures that we need to navigate are getting harder. But still, our aspirations and ambition are bigger. So that's also how to navigate all this is the main challenge we have all the time, especially after last year's edition.
You're having the opening at How, right? It's the first time for you to screen there,
Yes.
right? So how important is it for you to have these partnerships with places like How and other cinemas like Wolf and City Kino?
I think for us it is extremely important to be able to bring our voices and the voices of our community to the most prestigious German institutions. As a festival that is now established, that has been existing for 16 years, we consider this a very important part of the role we are playing to bring these voices to these institutions. So yes, for us it is major that we are in How. Right now we were having our openings in Arsenal before. Arsenal doesn't have cinemas this year. So we consider this one of the most, key role that we can play. But now the relationships to other cinema partners are completely different depending on who the partners are. Like Wolf Kino, we have a different extremely important relationship to them because Wolf is our most loyal partner since last year. We don't have anybody else who is as courageous and as outspoken as Wolf. So it is essential for us to remain partners with them because we understand each other and this loyalty is extremely important for us. So different layers and different relationships. We also have a new relationship this year with the Sporen Initiative, which is again very important for us because the Sporen has been playing such a key role in bringing and giving space to the community's voices, and community building, as already mentioned, is essential for us as a festival. So we value our collaboration with Spore as much as we value our collaboration with How.
And when it comes to the team behind ALFILM, I mean, it's, from what I understood, quite a big team, lots of work, especially the last preparations or the last bits before the festival is happening. So it's probably working round the clock, right? I imagine. And maybe can you describe a little bit what it actually means to organize a festival like ALFILM?
A lot of work, a lot of stress, a lot of running around behind people and deadlines, but also a lot of fun, one has to say, once you manage to survive the whole stress. I don't know, what do you want to say?
I mean,
about
we have
that?
an amazing team.
Absolutely.
Like Dalia Suleiman Festival Coordinator, Jo Harfouch, who joined the festival this year and has contributed with many interesting ideas and nice visions. Randa Boufakhr also in the program team. Nihal, guest relations, Madeleine, I don't want to forget anyone.
Judy, social
Judy,
media, Fadi doing the
Fadi.
amazing artwork.
Asma.
Asma, Abdalla, who is
Abdalla.
also working with Fadi, Anas, who is taking care of coordinating photographs and videographs during the festival, Kenza, who is doing our technical support. All of them had really, we are very grateful to have them this year for their inputs, for their initiatives, and also a lot of them for agreeing. Naziha, absolutely. Uta and Christiane, who do our press for Germany and the international world. All of them also being there here with us, not because it's just a job, but because they want to do Al-Film, because they want to be part of that, because it is important for them to highlight as much as possible the festival and what the festival means for the community right now. So it has been a joy to work with each and every one of them this year.
So it's love.
It is.
We survive by the virtue of love, the love of our communities, the love of our team. Yeah.
Beautiful. Very good answer. Okay, last question. What are you hoping the audience takes away from this year's festival?
A lot of fun, entertainment, empowerment, more love for Al-Film.
Discovering new amazing films, pushing their own perspectives further, questioning themselves, and always coming back to us to see more. And an amazing common experience. Love again.
Thank you so much. That was it for my questions.
Thank
Ravi,
you.
logo
Great
into the
questions.
camera.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and looking forward to the festival.
Same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was amazing.
Yeah,
really.
this was really nice.